All right. Thank you everyone for being here for our Halloween spooky season-esque reading. Tonight's featured poets are Anton Yakovlev, Jason Gordy Walker, Ace Boggess, and Seal Bledsoe. So thank you on behalf of One Art for being here, and I greatly appreciate it. I dropped a couple links in the chat regarding upcoming readings, upcoming workshops, and if anyone feels inclined, a link to donations. So let's go ahead and get started since we have 4 readers. So our first featured poet is Anton Yakovlev. I believe the first time that I met Anton was when I wandered into a Bowery reading in New York. I was in the city on a sort of mission that ended up getting completely derailed, which is a long story. On the plus side, this gave me the opportunity to attend a range of poetry events. And one of the great things about New York, of course, is that there are many. And in any night of the week, really, there's going to be a dilemma between which event you would most wish to attend. So it's kind of good that I don't live there in a way, or otherwise I would be constantly conflicted about what to do, as I know that Anton, in fact, is a little conflicted about potential activities he could have been doing tonight. I'd also be really driven insane due to the general frenetic atmosphere of New York, but that's really a me problem, as they say. So back on point, um, I had a lovely opportunity to witness Anton's skillful hosting ability that one time at Bowery, and maybe I learned a thing or two. So since then, I've definitely run into Anton a number of times at readings in downtown Philadelphia, and it is indeed a joy every time. That is plenty for me, and now let us welcome Anton to our virtual poetry space. Anton Yakovlev's poetry collection, One Night We Will No Longer Bear the Ocean, was published in 2024 by Redacted Books, an imprint of ELJ Editions. His chapbook, Chronostein's Alone, came out from Sir Vision Books in 2018 and won the James Tate Poetry Prize. The Last Poet of the Village, a book of translations of poetry by Sergei Yesenin, Anton can correct me on that, came out from Sensitive Skin Books in 2019. And Anton is also the author of Ordinary Impalers, which I loved and wrote a review of. That came out from Kelsey Books in 2017. And also 2 prior chapbooks, The Ghost of Grant Wood, Finishing Line Press, and Neptune Court from Operating System. Originally from Moscow, Anton is a graduate of Harvard University and a former education director at Bowery Poetry Club. You may also be interested to learn that back in the day, Anton directed several short films, and I can debate on, or Anton can really debate on sharing details about casting himself as a satanic character. Also, given that we are in the Halloween season, I'd love for Anton to take a moment and share a personal story that he has of his first encounters with American Halloween culture when he came to the US in 1996. So now to Anton.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, and great to read with all of you. Thanks for everyone for being here. Yes, I did not know what Halloween was when I arrived in the United States in 1996 on October 30th. So my first encounter was, everyone in Massachusetts was dressed as in various very interesting ways, had all sorts of interesting like fingernail polish and mascara and all sorts of things. Of course, I knew about the pumpkins. Someone like that was the only thing that people introduced me that, oh, people carve pumpkins. Look at all the pumpkins. I'm like, okay, well, so that's Halloween. I did not know about all the everything else. So I just thought that it was like, okay, well, that's how people usually are here. That's just the United States. Interesting. I was actually disappointed that it turned out not to be the case after a couple of days. I will, in fact, mention also in one of the poems that, one of the apartments that my parents and I looked at, there was like a hand, like a bloody hand hanging off of the balcony above us. And at that time, I already knew what it was about, but still, also, it contributed to kind of like this mythologized experience of the United States. So I'm going to read some poems that are scary, or funny, or everything in between, and also heartbroken and autumnal. So I'll start with a poem called Betrayal. The moment midnight rings, you throw on your coat and wear your hat at a deliberate angle. It forms a solid unit with your face and turns you into a Raphaelite portrait. Out in the real world, skulls rise out of the snow. Femurs and phalanges crack underfoot. Maggots make waves in newly thawed puddles. Disconnected jaws hop across the street. For half a block, we walk alongside each other. I can almost hear the gears in your head. I have so many answers for you, you think. A maggot lands between your eyes, your award-winning eyes. You run a willow branch along your cheek. Buds fall off, one by one. This poem appears in my book, One Night We Will No Longer Bear the Ocean, as does this next one, called Catching Up. The man who is dead to me stands next to me in a crowded ballroom. We make polite conversation. Safely stowed away inside his hat, the things he's done almost don't show. No one else speaks to him, too intimidated by his genius. Someone works up a nerve to offer him a cigar. His fingers slink like eels. He puffs at the cigar, and circles of betrayals envelop the ballroom. This man used to be my friend. He wants to go off and mingle, and asks me to leave without a goodbye. I destroy a napkin. A spotlight follows him around the room. This poem is called Trust Fund Babies. He drove his car surprisingly well for someone who wore a real pumpkin on his head every Halloween. She was not nice. Most people wanted to hit her. A middle-aged poet was the only one who did, for a while. He didn't work at looking like a werewolf. Then he did. Then he stopped. Then he got back into it. She was young at heart with her dog at her side. Or was it a duck? That's what she called him, anyhow. He tried to become a rock star, but was always distracted by the giant plate of nachos on the table nearby. Her first business venture was in selling bamboo vibrators. Her second business venture was in selling bamboo vibrators. He inhaled so much dust in his bedroom, he was rushed to an emergency room, then released back to his bedroom. For half her life, she watched her brother wither away. She lost it when one of her friends suggested she play with bears for relief. He pummeled his fist against an exposed brick wall until he acquired an air of detachment most people envied. She married someone just to sponsor his big campaign. Too bad she forgot to ask if he had any interest in campaigning. Last time I saw him, he was walking a cat of death on a leash, like a dog except that people were dying. She left a legacy of sarcasm and unrequited love, and a tall swan on a freezing river, avoiding wakes. Here's a couple of poems from my chapbook, The Ghost of Grand Wood. This is called Bowden Street. A box of correspondence from his 40s, birthdays, thank you notes, sympathy cards. Toward his 60s, they become less frequent. A few near-miss romances, a career that never did release the parking brake. No one remembers the decade his last hair fell out. Coming back home from a game of bocce with other elders he still fails to chat with, he smells more and more dead mouse in his apartment. He recalls the perfume of charred bridges, his youthful pride, his red torero mind dismissing people, always with good reason. Wallpapers look like maggots. Napping in a twin bed, he talks to his imaginary rascal son. What a long life I've lived. Don't let your guard down. He takes the graveyard tours at Beacon Hill. The buses boast, we'll drive you to an early grave. He wishes. He dreams of death and at the same time wishes that his death would have a little impact, that someone would exclaim, yes, his grave was early, instead of shrugging. Dying was his job. Tourist eyelashes all around the bus bat themselves, impervious to his sight. He wants a strawberry. The guide ushers him out. Beacon Hill is more of a hill each evening. Someday he'll fall and break one of his hips. Someday he'll fall again and break the other. On Halloween, a bloody hand hangs loose from the balcony above his bedroom. He wishes his own blood were still that red. The night he walks back for the first time, not remembering his own name, his head will fill completely with traffic noise. Nice town. The serial killer stashed one of his victims' skulls in his dining room chandelier. Unnoticed, like lunar craters behind a massive cloud cover, eye sockets hid behind the crystal pendants. Every Sunday he gathered his extended family for dinner and said grace in unhurried companionship. They never took each other for granted, always made eye contact when they toasted, never fought over stuffing. They often had other guests, colleagues, or new neighbors. Many a lifelong friendship started at a table like this. They looked out at the miniature waves on the narrow river across the meadow. Some nights, small horses ran along the bank. Once it grew dark, the host lit the chandelier. It cast a soft lunar light. They tangoed and played Monopoly. Sometimes they sang harmony. The host had a perfect pitch. The vowels of his arias made the chandelier reverberate. Pleasant ringing echoed through the house. On a red line train to Braintree. The first time I saw the Grim Reaper, he was right next to my foot. I mistook him for an oversized moth. I was about to squash him, but became curious. He flew up, settled behind the woman sitting directly in front of me on the train, and started to inch his scythe toward her neck. The woman shifted her shoulders. The Grim Reaper looked quiet and even-keeled. The passengers next to us saw him too, but no one did anything and just smiled about it. There was a poster hanging above the Reaper with hefty postcards attached to enroll at the community college. A plan was born in my mind. Pick a card and throw it at him. That would cause a disturbance great enough that the Reaper would have to scram. But an emotional song was playing on my iPod. It was too much of a special moment. Besides, in order to pick up the card, I would have had to lean in too close to the woman whose low-cut shirt was not all that well adjusted. The Reaper never stirred, just inched his scythe closer. The train came out of the tunnel, and the woman started dialing her boyfriend on her iPhone to tell him about the Grim Reaper that hovered behind her. I was curious whether this would make the boyfriend break up with her or, on the contrary, offer love and new jewelry, but it was too noisy to eavesdrop. I hoped the woman would exit at the same station as I to see if the Reaper would follow her, but she didn't. I had to go. She remained sitting, blade at her neck. As I walked out, everyone on the train was commenting on the Grim Reaper, husbands making sophisticated jokes to their wives and children, translating some of the more difficult stuff for foreigners. I came home and quickly fell asleep. I did not dream of anything I had seen. The next morning, looking through the metro and Phoenix, I looked for news of a subway death. But the papers must have been sent to press too early to run the story. This poem was in my chapbook, Kronos Dines Alone, and the next one is in the first chapbook, came out almost 10 years ago, called Neptune Court. November. November ushers in memories of music of a November-obsessed dark band you admired. Dropping you off at the bus, I would hurry to put on my headphones to listen to a rough November song to quickly mythologize the time we'd spent together. Long, repetitive dirges slow down the mind. Eyes remain fixed on a reflecting pool. I sniffed the air for months I forgot. Rotting leaves bring me back to the busy gate near the cemetery, where I leaned on black metal, saying goodbye to you. Anonymous lovers hold hands in a shrieking way. I dreamed of marrying you once. You made teddy bears relevant. Some of your last words to me were, I'm so domestically minded. Sometimes I scare myself. I could have hoped for nothing better than making a domestic life with you, no matter how often I treated you as if you were an orchestra in the sky. Night makes every cat turn gray. Staring into the pool, I see names and dates. I turn off the rough music that tries to encapsulate every November that ever happened to man. I learn to remember you in silence, but the music always returns. And I'm going to close with a poem by Sergei Yesenin that Mark mentioned. So this book, the last poem, Poet of the Village, is my selection of translations that I did by Sergei Yesenin, who lived from 1895 to 1925. This poem was written in 1924, and it's untitled. The Golden Grove has spoken its last in its merry birch language, and the herons, joylessly in flight, no longer lament anyone. Why lament? Everyone is a nomad, passing by, walking in, then leaving again. The hemp field daydreams of all who are gone. A wide moon hangs over the blue pond. I stand alone on a barren plain while the wind blows away the herons. I'm full of thoughts about my cheerful youth, but I regret nothing. I don't regret the wasted years. I don't regret the lilac blooms. In the garden, the rowan is red as a bonfire, but it gives no warmth to anyone. The rowan branches won't burn out. The yellow won't kill the grass. Just as a tree gently drops leaves, I drop mournful words. And if time piles them all in one useless lump, blown away by the wind, just say that the Golden Grove has spoken its last in its lovely language. Sergei Yesenin. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. That was wonderful. I have a few afterthoughts. I love the surreality in Anton's poetry, and I find myself smiling or really smirking unusually often hearing Anton read his poems. And I feel like the stories are told in such a way that truly surprises and delights. Um, and there's often these emotional shifts within a single poem too that are interesting and can catch you off guard. And I find that very like a unique experience, something unique to Anton's work. So thank you,
Thank you.
Anton, for that.
Thank you.
Our next featured poet is Jason Gordy Walker. I met Jason for the first time, I believe, at a conference at Westchester University. Humorously and frankly absurdly, I had signed up to attend this conference without realizing it was heavily focused on formal poetry. On the plus side, while I was out of my comfort zone for several days, it was rather educational. So first, on meeting Jason, I was immediately drawn to his charming antics. Uh, I'm forgetting, but I definitely also ran into Jason at a second conference, which I believe was during my memorable experience as team leader, or a related title, as a staff member at Poetry by the Sea in Connecticut. Yeah, that was a few years back. So during the conference, I was working 16-hour days or something along those lines. So it's all a bit of a blur, but I believe, yeah, that we saw each other at Poetry by the Sea as well. So now to introduce Jason. Jason Gordy Walker's poems have appeared in Atlanta Review, Confrontation, Measure, One Art, and the Southern Poetry Anthology, as well as other places. His reviews and interviews can be found in Birmingham Poetry Review, Poetry Northwest, Subtropics, and blogs of Dos Madres Press and New Pages. He's received scholarships from New York State Summer Writers Institute, Poetry by the Sea, which I mentioned before, as well as other institutions, and he earned his MFA from the University of Florida, as well as his MA from the University of Alabama, Birmingham. Currently, Jason lives in Alabama and practices translating Norwegian poetry. Thank you for being here, Jason.
Thanks so much, Mark. It's great to be here. Can everybody hear me? Okay, good. So the first poem, well, I suppose I'll read a couple of poems from this, coming from the Southern Poetry Anthology. Um, it's volume 10, Alabama. So Texas Review Press put this out recently, and I see a couple of my friends who are contributors. So if you see Shelley Cato down there and Haley Cotton, they have really good poems in this as well. So definitely check it out if you're interested in Southern poetry or just good poems in general. There's a lot of good contributors in here. Um, so the first poem I'm going to read is actually a villanelle, Mark. So we'll get started with that. So it's called Villanelle and Blue. Villanelle and Blue. I always hear the color blue at night, our waltzing feet, my drowsy hands upon you, before I down my pills and flip the light. Obscured with moss, the trees encircled a dike, like early years of sleep. I hate, like you, to always hear the color blue at night. The foaming waterfalls or waves that strike. I almost touched a planet or star or you before I downed my pills and flipped the light. The smartest man I've ever known, unlike the wisest man you knew, will never know you had always heard the color blue at night. I laugh at a void that lingers within sight. My life returns to dust, and where are you before I down my pills and flip the light? An aura white and overarching, a weight prevents my dance from reaching God or you, and still I hear the color blue at night before I down my pills and flip the light. So there's that one. Next poem I'll read is basically all true, give or take a couple bits. It's called For the Woman Whose Name I Forget. In Bombay, millions of people breathe. An old man inhales the remains of a blemished sky while a pregnant girl mutters goodbye. But in my small Alabama town, at midnight, nothing moves except my fingers across the keyboard. Last month, a woman, whose name I forgot, was shot 6 times in the abdomen. Her son might have done it. Come Sunday, I'll pray just like the preacher tells me to. For now, leaves crackle under my feet as a train rushes through the night toward a damp city. Maybe her name is on a wall somewhere, sprayed in hollow letters. So again, Southern Poetry Anthology. It's a fun book. Really thankful to the editors for that one. Okay, the next poem I'm going to read isn't quite a scary poem, maybe to others, but to me it could be a little scary. It's based on my experience as a dishwasher, which I did for a number of years. Sometimes because I wanted to, sometimes because I didn't want to, but had to. Um, and sometimes I'm afraid just to torture myself. So this one's called Washing Dishes at Crybabies. It originally came out in Delta Poetry Review Online. Washing dishes at Crybabies. Soapy water cascaded down my hands. I scraped a pan with a spoon, a strange instrument. Down the line, walking in, repeated like an earworm. Behind, behind, I barked to the line cooks. I hauled a bus tub of metal trays, ceramic plates, and silver dipping cups. I dumped them in a green glowing sink. The machine's jets rumbled. I lifted the aluminum door, slid the blue dish rack down, spraying off lingering suds, then arranged the dishes to dry according to their likeness. I didn't own a thing here, not even myself. I pushed more forks into the industrial machine's mouth. I waited for a long 2 minutes. Then I repeated the process. All right. Next poem. Thank you. Next poem's called After School Activities. This one's currently unpublished and probably for good reason. After school activities. We teens sprayed the old man's warehouse with profanities. A policeman cannibalizing a boy. A malfunctioning robot zapping a swimming pool. An inverted Latin cross. We crushed a whole wall with baseball bats. Born losers, we slung stones through windows. When the glass shattered, our troubles seemed to fade. Shining a flashlight at a dirty sink, we found a condom dripping semen. Billy No Good got slammed with alternative school a week later for having slipped it into Mr. Carmichael's cold potato soup. We spent our days punching each other's guts, belly laughing. Sometimes a chill rushed through our bones. Poorly reciting Poe, we wooed our loves whose names were soon brushed over with masonry paint in that small dying town full of retired rednecks, drink-bloated deacons, and hell-damning housewives of husbands the richer the dumber. What a damn good summer. And I've got two more. All right, and that one was partly true too, I hate to say. Teenagers, what are you gonna do? Next one is Greeting Charles Henry Ford at Rose Hill Cemetery. Now, Charles Henry Ford is a mostly forgotten poet, but he's actually the country's our country's first surrealist poet. And surprisingly enough, I didn't know this until I encountered his work by pure chance at a bookstore, and I think it was Huntsville, Alabama, a used bookstore. I think it's called the Bookworm. And I liked the cover, and it was I think New Directions put it out, maybe City Lights. Um, I've been kind of revisiting it throughout the years, but then I come to find out that he was buried in the town I was born in Mississippi. So This is called Greeting Charles Henry Ford at Rose Hill Cemetery. I circled the graveyard behind my father's old high school, observing tombstones marked with the names of my long dead cousins. I rubbed my sunburned scalp, puzzled not to find your resting place. I pictured it adorned with flowers, obscured by weeds beside a chipped picket fence. Throat tightened, worried I might not find you. I saw the flowers wilting in my mind's eye. Sunlight caressed a modest plot of grass. My aching chest relieved. I saw your family, your father, his wife, and your sister, Ruth Ford, actress, muse, but no flowers. Then I saw you, a stone, sleeping through his reward. I had waited so long to tell you how much I loved A Curse for the War Machine, but here you were asleep. No flowers for you. I touched the ground, not above your bone, not above your handsome skull, above your ash. All right, yeah, so that was a fun poem. I actually did visit the grave and um, touch the ground and tried to speak to his ghost, but I don't think that ghosts are real. I didn't hear anything, but I tried to hear something when I wrote the poem, I guess. And this last poem is another unpublished poem. This is maybe the scariest poem of the bunch. It's called Imagine a World Without Garlic. Imagine a world without garlic. I couldn't do it if I tried. Think of all the bread, plain, bland, without garlic. People drive home, turn on the television, order pizza with no garlic. On screen, a rent-a-priest fights a vampire without the help of garlic, and parasitic relationships are all the rage due to the common lack of garlic. Across the world, men's prostrates enlarge, and garlic is not there to stop the cancer. On average, breath smells better, but blood sugar levels are rising nonstop. Maybe someone would wish for garlic if only they knew what garlic is. But it isn't here. No powder to break down fat in the liver. Bone health suffers too, and the social order has inflamed. At night, one dreams a strange, bulbous thing covered in paper skin. Upon waking, one feels one would have slept better if one had placed something around the feet of the bed. Thanks, that's all for tonight. Appreciate it.
Wow, that was wonderful, Jason. Thank you. As I just put in the chat, I think that should be the official poem for Garlic Press, the lit mag. So you might want to reach out and try to nudge them on that one. I guess that's an idea. Throughout your reading, I definitely get a lot of Richard Hugo vibes, as far as the way you use your own personal universe is very much captured within like the towns that you actually live in and relate to and have experiences in. I love that dishwasher poem too. That line, I didn't own a thing here, not even myself. Powerful. A lot of powerful takeaway lines. So thank you. I truly appreciate it. Um, so next up, our featured poet is Ace Boggess. For those who don't know, I actually lived in West Virginia for 5 years, in the Morgantown area in North Central West Virginia. And I can maybe code switch a little bit, but I don't think anybody ever really believed at any point that I was not an East Coaster. And country folk are super good at putting one over on me. Like just telling tall tales, and I'm just extremely gullible and just go for it apparently. But anyway, that's a whole side story. But anyway, so yeah, so I was there for 5 years in West Virginia, and I didn't have the chance during that time to meet Ace in person, but I did meet a bunch of folks who gave high praise to Ace, including longtime West Virginia poet laureate Mark Harshman, and Mark is a great guy. So Ace Boggess is author of 6 books of poetry, including Escape Envy from Brick Road Poetry Press, I Have Lost the Art of Dreaming It So, and The Prisoners. His writing has appeared in Michigan Quarterly Review, Notre Dame Review, Harvard Review, Mid-American Review, and others. An ex-con, he lives in Charleston, West Virginia, where he writes and he tries to stay out of trouble. Thank you, Ace. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. Mark has published me in One Art many, many times, and Schuylkill Valley Journal before that. And we came close to meeting once in Parkersburg, and our friend Randy Ward hosted a reading.
That's true.
So I actually have 3 new books coming out in the next couple of years, 2 of them poetry and then a book of short stories. One of them has come as a bit of a surprise to me. It's going to be coming out pretty quickly from Modus Audax Press. And it's called My Pandemic Gratitude List. I wrote a poem every day of the lockdown from in West Virginia, it was 41 days. So I got 41 poems out of it. And then the year after that, I started writing gratitude list poems, which are popping up in a lot of journals now. And I put those 2 together into a book that Modus Audax is going to publish. And I'm going to read some things from that, and then I'll read some from my other forthcoming book. But I'll start with my pandemic section. Day 2 of the lockdown. Mist, glittery, falls apart, collapsing like a light rain. There are no guards in the mist. I have not seen death appear wearing its silver cloak. I could go on like this for hours. How many days before a mind of mayhem? The mist breaks apart like a lovely funeral. Lockdown, day 3. Sun is out after days of clouds that left their grief as a parting gift. I step outside and pollen marshals troops. It scratches my throat. I cough and think, is this it? Have I died and not yet figured it out? God, why does my brain corrupt the peaceful moment in the light? Even here in my comfortable prison, the virus that can't reach me does. Until I panic at a bead of sweat, a little ache, a misspent breath. It's a beautiful morning to write my own obituary. Somewhere else, it's raining. Each drop a survivor of the storm. And this was probably my favorite from the bunch. It was also the first one to get published about the day after I wrote it. It's day 11 in West Virginia. But in Florida, day 1. Folks leaving the last party, returning home to wash sand from their sun-diminished heads. They're like the legend of soldiers still fighting World War II from isolation of their island jungle. Don't realize they've lost, carried defeat like shame too long. On the news, I hear that Florida's governor exempted religious services from the prohibition on public gatherings. God damn it, Florida. Why do you always have to fuck things up like that one kid in class who forgets to bring a pencil to the most important test of his young life. My dad will go, despite his age, diabetes, recent cancer treatment. He was as stubborn as Florida long before he moved there. Several states away, I'm hunched over a notebook, which has been my church, attempting to figure out how to say I won't see my father alive again. But luckily, the lockdown ended and we moved into gratitude. And these poems, when you see them in the magazines online or in print, they're just gratitude list and the number. Changed the titles a little bit for the book. So this is 9 misinterpretations. Forgive me when I praise my wealth of misinterpretations. I write a poem about what few possessions I keep in a bag in my prison cell, and strangers take comfort in this as my response to a latest shooting or grief of losing. Write about a broken fence and am lauded for astute observations on the politics of now. Stories about drug abuse express collective unrest or overcoming struggles with identity. It's not for me to disabuse readers of their knights errant. I find comfort in their finding comfort in my words. Sure, sometimes a kissed stone is just a stone I kissed to feel it cool and smooth against my lips. A favorite song is a favorite song. The word calm means calm, not love or God or afterglow. I praise vision superimposed on mine, like a mustache drawn on the face on a candidate's sign. Again from the gratitude list, 13 pleasant prison memories. Forgive me when I praise my wealth of pleasant prison memories. The candy man rolling lollipops with boiled Jolly Ranchers, gummy snacks, and sticks from cotton swabs. The watermelon scent of hooch, my first month in. Though I didn't taste the booze, it revealed how I was at a party full of revelers, stripped of their dancing shoes, but not their feet. Dreams during afternoon naps in which I was free and could sniff multicolored flowers, taste the smoke of grilling burgers, drive away as if I had won clemency in a raffle. Letters from strangers who told me, we have read your words and want you to know we are here, or want you to know that you are there. Card games, chess, tournaments of each. A bag of Moon Lodge chips, the entry fee. Playing the chaplain's guitar some nights when I could sing loudly and off key, as if shouting a drunken hymn for the journey home. Guards' voices over the intercom. Please don't ever play that song again. "32. Other people I am not. Forgive me when I praise my wealth of other people I am not. I'm not Wanda, who owned my digits before me more than a decade ago and still receives telemarketing calls. I'm not the president who catches hell from both sides because he can't control inflation, supply chains, or his party. Meek to the point of meaninglessness, the kind of man who desperately wants to tell a joke but gets the punchline wrong. Neither of those actors bearing ugly scars of their inner selves in court, I'm free to describe my awfulness on paper, save the lawyer fees. Thank God or gods or nada, I'm not that sick fuck shooting up a school or that other asshole wearing his hurt face into a supermarket, church, mosque, or synagogue. I've done dumb shit in my day and paid a price, but I'm grateful I'm not him or hundreds of other hymns like him. Praise to my being who I am, frightened, awkward, shady, crude. I wouldn't choose otherwise. To be one of those rich men that rule the world, any of whom I'd embrace with newfound tenderness as I lifted wallets from their coats. Okay, and the other poetry book that I have coming out, was actually supposed to be out by now, but it's delayed a little bit, is from Fernwood Press, and it's called Tell Us How to Live. And I've been writing these question poems for about 20 years now. In fact, my book, I've Lost the Art of Dreaming, so it was all question poems. This will be my second full book of questions, and I'm really looking forward to this. So, the first question poem I'm going to read was from an inmate I was corresponding with. Her name was Serena Fox, and she asked, "Do you have any advice for inmates?" Do I ever? Don't play spades with your cellies at 2 a.m. By jaundiced glow of the suicide light results in falling off your bunk more than you'd like. If you're passing a roll-up, don't get caught. Facing the magistrate, don't resist. Say you did it. Tell a story or a joke and ask him to be lenient. Everyone has a different lesson that must be learned by force, the whole, a broken bone. Don't eat the fish. Don't snitch. Don't cheat at cards or chess. Don't fall in love with a cute CO who promises a secret spot unless you're doing life, and then why not? How about this? Do laugh when possible. Then pass that on, rattling off one-liners like having drinks with friends at the bar. Find happiness as often as you can and hold it to your lips like chocolate. Savor it like a new pillow. Burn it into your flesh like a tattoo you know you shouldn't get, but will, because the blue enchants you and the pain proves you're breathing after all. I have two more from this book. This is the one that the title is based on. The question is from Adam Zagajewski's poem, Corridor. But won't you tell us how to live? Be obnoxious. Be indecent. Those who can't handle the surface you won't survive the subtleties beneath. Be loud when needed, loudest in laughter, quiet whenever others are complaining. Be a saint in the wilderness, not some lurker hiding in a cave. Wear your cage like a summer hat so strangers might observe your plumage without reaching a hand for you. And if they do, then bite. Tonight, answer someone's question with a pining pseudo sigh, then turn away so you appear to be keeping your secrets in a locked drawer. Lock the drawer, containing garments too small for you, smelling of dust and the cigarette smoke that doesn't fade. Be deceptive, but not malicious. Let the you of you become a mystery, invisible hand moving pieces at peripherals. Allow no witness, force all to speculate, believe, then disappoint them. They never understood you. Now forgive. And this also from Tell Us How to Live. I'm going to close with a question from a rehab workbook. Yes, I did those. What feelings did you try to manage? I almost blacked out reciting the tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow speech in my 12th grade English class. Panic-stricken, dizzied, pulse stabbing at my neck, same way I felt 20 years later, standing before the judge, confessing what sordid prophets knew. Not that I couldn't do it, didn't have it memorized, failed to appreciate its sorrow. Like damp cardboard, I buckled, shaken by anxieties I couldn't understand, afraid of everyone watching. I never handled other people well. Fear, my tragic flaw leading to despair, and those three sorrows, or those three tomorrows. The tomorrow of saying hello to strangers, the tomorrow of putting on headphones to drown me beneath fuzzy chords, self-erasing. And the other one, the tomorrow of desperate banquets and my drug-dumb blade, letting me not be me, not worry. More Macbeth, the plotter, less the broken, weeping patron waiting defiantly for the woods to burn. Thank you.
Wow, that was quite an ending, Ace. Thank you for that reading. Powerful, powerful stuff. I love your question poems. Those have always been a delight, and I think you've maybe used two things that I said on Facebook over the years and turned them into poems. I think that's true. Um, three. Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you for that. It's an honor. And that was an excellent reading. Thank you again. And now, last but not least, we have with us Courtney Bledsoe. So about CL Bledsoe, I have to be a little careful when I get a submission packet, because I may be just like a little bit too in love with the style and delivery of the poems. And so it can blind me maybe to the individual merits of a particular poem. And so I don't want to draw, too many precise comparisons, because nobody likes that when it's like comparing bands, Um, but it's a little unfair to the originality that a person brings to their work. But I will say that I think you'll hear maybe elements of David Kirby or Bob Hickok in Courtney's style. And I don't know, Courtney's developed something of a secret sauce over time, and that each poem is really unique. And I'll say there's just something enchanting about the techniques and the use of poetic devices that just really gets me every time. So anyway, without further ado, raised on a rice and catfish farm in eastern Arkansas, C.L. Bledsoe is author of more than 30 books. That's right, 30, including the collections Riceland, The Bottle Episode, and his newest, Having a Baby to Save a Marriage, as well as his latest novels, Goodbye, Mr. Lonely, and The Saviors. Bledsoe lives in Northern Virginia with his daughter. And now C.L. Bledsoe.
Thank you, Mark. That was a lot of ado. Thanks. I'm gonna just dive right into it. I don't have a lot of Halloween stuff, but I do have like some witches and wolves and stuff like that. So that's what I'm gonna do. This is called Duran Duran. Had I been raised by wolves, wouldn't I have learned to hold my liquor better than the moon holds your eyes? We sharpened our teeth on the lintel beams to try to reach your light. We taught our fleas to recite their mothers' names in Latin, all to impress. We were not wolves, we were bears, fat and indolent, too much milk and honey to ever fit in that prom dress again. That was the best night of my life, drunk on a thimbleful of hope, white man dancing to The Cure, fur hidden beneath pink chiffon. Everyone should be beautiful at least once. Outside, the wolves sang barbershop with their slicked back hair, their daddy's clean trucks. They called us all cowards for leaving the woods. I turned to stumble out your name, but you were halfway to the door, eyes full and gone. This one is actually from One Art, and it was nominated for a pushcart, which was a pretty big honor. The title comes from a song by Sparks, if you know them. It's called I Wish You Were Fun. I don't know what the birds are singing about, but I suspect it's something to do with their sciatica. Mirrors begrudge us for not being Picassos, all sadness and past due bills while needing a haircut. I wish I was fun. I wish fear didn't strangle my smile while I'm just trying to get the shopping done. There's so much weight on my shoulders I can't look up without something important sliding off. Laugh, at least I'm not Ayn Rand. It's a different kind of fear, that I can't open enough to the world or that I can't close fast enough. Either way, no one is happy with every new recipe. So many times it's about flirting with the void when all you want is to be held by the darkness. When I close my eyes and think of you, I see commercials. I'm sorry that you're not happy, but I'm not going to be your midlife crisis. The difference between an adventure and a mistake is all in the telling. These days, I'm all mistake. Coward, cowering indoors for fear of storm. I'm already wet and I have so far to go in these squeaky shoes. But you remember when I was fun. Were there ever days before these? And this is another one that was in One Art. And the title comes from a song by Bauhaus. It's called Who Shot Mr. Moonlight? Someone shoot nostalgia in the back so I can get some sleep. His chattering never stops, a constant comparison that never existed. The future is coming and I can't find my pants. I'm hiding in the bushes while all the cars go by. Families walk past while I sit and read. It's exhausting, all this dying, but better days will surely come. I just have to try harder. Consider the mundaneness of clocks. I can't turn my eyes away. We're all looking for something nobler. Kierkegaard said we settle for the level of despair we can tolerate. Wouldn't that be nice? To turn off the struggle and snuggle in, the blind door in the background of the soul behind which there is nothing except cheesecake. It's better than telling strangers about your backsplash. I was so young then, fat and soft. I still am. Watch me roll down this hill. Watch me run. These next two are kind of bookends, I guess. They're much more about my childhood in Arkansas and the Mississippi River Delta. But you probably can't tell that, so it doesn't matter. This one is called A New Chaw, like, you know, Mark Twain would say a chaw of tobacco, a new chaw. I'm on the roof with a new chaw. You've been a bullseye your whole life. Just stand still and wait for the good word. Raise for it with the true book as instruction, a cane pole for the mud hole of humanity, a snare for the fleet-footed dream. I dropped out of high school to pick strawberries and drink. It was me, 5 brothers who all enlisted, 6 sisters who ran away as soon as they learned the Cardinals. Mom, Pa working up a real hatred in the lean-to means there's more on the way. You can hear them squeak when the cicadas shut up. Hope is just another town in Arkansas. When the roof leaked, we planted grass on it for the goats to eat. Cows graze our corn husk pillows. I've heard there's a world where men don't itch every second, where the body isn't a slow-drying wound. When winter finally came, we lay out in the yard, praying the snow would take us away with its melt. And this one is called Mud. We were dust, which is the next step toward rebirth. Missing ribs, too proud to eat another apple. All our lives we dreamed of someday being men. Sandalwood and Old Spice, a Riceland cap, and cracked boots. When you're drowning in the sea, it's best to go with the waves than hope for land. At night, we rode rice stalks to fight witches in the skies. All we really wanted was their time, a stray eye to catch, someone to help. But we didn't know another way to stop the tide. On full moons, we trudged down to hell to battle the devil. This is what you do. If someone had offered to build a statue, we'd have whipped them wee all the way home and stuck it in a drawer somewhere for the next time we made shine. Paid off and quiet, the house sat high and lonesome on that white chalk hill while we waited for the dust to tell us something to fix, to sleep on the couch, to watch it die slow while we crumpled our hats in our hands and said nothing. This is called They Make a Noise Like Feathers, and I've sort of incorporated variations on 2 lines by Kafka, which you can guess which ones. At some point, the stars stop looking at us. For them, life is a costume ball, but we attend wearing nothing but our real faces and our debt. We have our tea and naps, our struggles to be kind to the jackboots. There is infinite hope, but not for us. The stars have plans about opening a boutique that wouldn't allow them inside. They want nothing to be left of them but their names and stylized drawings of their eyes. Before they got famous, they spent their evenings looking at portraits of the backs of their own heads. We can barely afford cable. Every door, every eye on the street could belong to tomorrow for them. They say light won't make you happy, but they've never drowned in the dark. Okay, and this is my last one. It's brand new. I don't know if it's actually finished, but we're going to end on it. It's called How to Dream the Delta, like the Mississippi River Delta. How to Dream the Delta. I'll start with mud and heat, where all life begins. I am a rice field, sweet flavor in the air, a water moccasin cutting across my surface, a dancing cloud of mosquitoes in my hair. My father is there, mud thing, beer can tossed in the back of the truck as he wades out to patch a levee. I am a black truck settling on a dirt track. I am a snake rifle pointing at myself. My mother, a restless school teacher, waits at the house, a little taste of hell lit under her that spreads every day. Tragedy is another name for home. I am a red brick house on a ridge. I am cows lowing in the yard since the fence fell down. My father comes home, thinks he sees a skunk, and shoots my dog. My mother throws a dictionary at us when we don't play school right. I just want to have friends over without worrying about the screaming. There are wings somewhere far away, blackbirds we killed in our cornfields. They are coming but never arrive. You can hear them at night over the lonesome train. They will carry me home when I'm ready. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for having me, Mark.
Oh, thank you, Courtney. That
And
was
yeah, the
great.
one poem is actually forthcoming in One Art. Yeah, Mr. Moonlight.
Right. Yeah. We're of course excited to publish that. Thank you for the preview. That was a lovely reading. So thank you again to all of our wonderful featured poets tonight. And thank you all for being with us. I hope you'll plan to attend future One Art readings. The next scheduled reading is Thursday, November 14, 7 p.m. Eastern. The featured poets for that reading are Betsy Mars, Tina Berry, Jane Swart, and Hayden Saunier. And tickets are, as they'll always be, free or donation. So thank you again, and I wish all of you a pleasant evening and a good week ahead. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.